Hello, beautiful. You're welcome back to Fanny Matt YouTube channel. So, if this is your first time of stopping by, please do well to subscribe to my channel. Turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload new videos. So, today I'll be teaching you how to make this gorgeous corset dress. This is a transparent corset dress using lace fabric. So this is a continuation of the video. This is the part 2. So do well to watch the part 1 so that you can come back and watch the part 2 so that you get to understand everything that we are doing here. So I've already cut out my corset mesh and I placed the corset mesh on top of my net fabric. Okay, this is a mesh net. The soft stretchy net is called mesh. So now I'm just adding half an inch allowance all round the pattern, just the side seam and the waist part. That's where I'm adding half an inch seam allowance. So the reason why I'm adding this allowance is because I don't want that part of the bodice to be pricking the skin of my client. So I'm trying to use the net to cover that part of the corset mesh. So that's what I'm trying to do here. This is actually optional, but I just feel like doing it. So the corset mesh, the length for the corset mesh, I just made sure that it surpassed the under bust line a little, but it didn't get to the waistline. So maybe 1 inch or thereabout above the waistline. I didn't measure, I just eyeball and I cut out. Okay, so that's what I did here. So now I'm just trimming out the excess that we don't need. As you can see, I used my pin to pin this down because net fabric can be very annoying to work with. So you need to use your pins to pin down so it will be easy for you to work with. So I'll go ahead and trim out the excess that I have there. Once I'm done trimming out, I'll move over to using my hemming gum to lay down the edge of this trimming on top of the corset mesh. I think I didn't video that part. I'm sorry about that. I just use it to cover the rough edges. That's basically what I did there. So now I'm going to cut out exactly what I have on my pattern paper. I placed it on my chantilly lace and I cut out the exact shape that I have there. So please watch the cutting video so that you can understand what is going on here and everything. This is a dartless corset, so there's no dart in this dress. So this is what it looks like after cutting out. So now I placed my pattern, this is the front pattern, on top of my net, and you can see I added like excess allowance before cutting out. So now I'm bringing back my corset mesh and I'm just going to pin this down on top of this pattern paper that I have here. You can see that the corset mesh did not get to the waistline like I explained earlier. So I'm just going to pin this down all through. I made this video a bit fast because I don't want the video to be too long. So I'm just going to pin down this chantilly lace on top of the pattern paper. So you can see the shape, the corset part, the round shape that we have there. So make sure you pin yours as well and you pin the bodice. You can see I've pinned everywhere down, it's laying flat. So now I'm taking this little fabric, this little mesh. You can see the way I'm folding. This is just to hide the edges. Okay, this net is what I'll be using as the lining for this outfit. So I'm just pinning this on top of the corset mesh that I have under the lace. So this is to cover that part where the corset mesh stopped, because I don't want it noticeable. Okay, so I'm just using this to cover it. And you can see I have excess. When you are placing your net on top of your pattern, make sure you are not stretching the net. Don't stretch the mesh, just place it and pin down. If you stretch the mesh, the outfit will become too tight for your client to wear. Okay, so now the excess that I, for the lower part, this one that I cut out, I'll fold it into two. I'll hide the rough edge and I'll continue to pleat. I'll come down from the waistline by 2 inches and I'll continue to pleat. So you can see, make sure when you are pleating yours, you try as much as possible to make sure that it lays very flat and neat. Make sure you pleat it nicely. As you are pleating, once you pleat a bit on one side, you go over to the other side and you arrange your pleats nicely, and then you pin down. In this tutorial, we are going to be working with a lot of pins, a lot of pins. So the reason why you need excess is so that when you are top stitching this net down, you will not have anyone running back into the pattern. You want to make sure that your stitches can hold down all the net that you've gathered perfectly. So make sure you take your time to arrange, don't rush, just take your time to arrange the pleats nicely. So for this tutorial, I bought 7 yards of mesh. So the 7 yards, I removed 1 yard to cover the cup. I have a video on my YouTube channel already where I made the cup. So I advise that you watch that video. I'm going to leave a link in the description box on how to achieve that, so it will be easy for you to locate the video. So I'll just continue to pin. You can see I'm not stretching the mesh, I'm just pinning gently. And as you are pinning this down, make sure that the chantilly lace that you have underneath it is not rumpled. You understand? Make sure everything is laid down perfectly and nice. So the remaining 6 yards that I have for the mesh is what I now use for this bodice. Okay, so I did not measure the cutting of this mesh. I just made sure that after placing my pattern on the mesh, I cut out excess. You can see the excess that I have, and now I'm top stitching. You can see I'm top stitching on the paper part, not on the mesh part, on the paper part, very close to the edge. You can see me still trying to make sure that my net is not inside the pattern paper. So I'm just going to top stitch this all the way down to make sure that my paper and my fabric is one piece. You know that chantilly is very light, so it will be difficult for you to just pin your mesh on top of it and top stitch. So the paper will be a guide for everything that we'll be doing here today. So now I'm trimming out the excess, as you can see, and then I'm going to remove my pins and I'm going to tear the pattern paper out of this. So you can see what we have there. So the reason why I use the corset mesh for the upper part is so that the cup will have something to rest on. Okay, it will be difficult for you to just sew your cup on top of net. You know, your net fabric is very stretchy. Your chantilly lace is very stretchy, so it can stretch out of place. So that's the reason why I use that corset mesh for that part. So now I'm top stitching the corset mesh and my chantilly lace together so that it will be one piece. So you don't want your net stretching out of your fabric. You want everything nice and neatly done. So now you can see my cup. The tutorial is up on my YouTube channel. You can see how clean and neat this transparent cup corset is. So now I'm going to place it wrong side facing each other like so. I'll be sewing from the back. So let's move over to the sewing machine and give this a good sewing, neatly done. Okay, make sure your hand is not shaking at this point. We are sewing down half of an inch round the cup, half of an inch round the cup. So once I'm done sewing that part, I will go move over to the next, to the left side of the cup. Whatever you do for the right, you do for the left as well. So we are sewing down half of an inch. As you can see, the cup is neatly done, and this is what the inside is looking like, looking beautiful and clean. You can see this resting perfectly on the corset mesh. So now I'm going to fold my fabric on a bias like so, and I'll bring back my cup and I'll measure round the part where I sewed. So whatever yours is, whatever the length of yours is, make sure you measure and cut out excess. Okay, that's how you fold it. You fold on a bias. So I'm just going to give this a good press, and then I'm going to cut out what I will be needing. I'll be using 1.5 inches for this, 1.5. So when you are cutting this fabric, make sure you cut on a bias. If you cut yours straight, it will not relax round the cup when you are sewing. So cutting on a bias is very, very important. So you can see I'm going to slash this into two. We'll be using one for each cup. Okay, and we'll move over to the sewing machine so that we can sew this down. So now you can see I'll be sewing from the right side. I'll fold the end of the bias and I'll place like so, and I'll top stitch on that half an inch mark we used in sewing down the cup, on top of the half an inch mark we use in sewing down the cup. So when you are doing this, you don't need to rush your work. Just take it slow and make sure that you catch all the net on top of the cup. You can see what I'm doing. Just sew slowly and make sure you can see the way I'm placing my hand underneath the bias to make sure that all the net is neatly sewn underneath the bias. You can see. So you can now cut out a little excess, okay, the excess that you don't need. Fold the end. You can see, fold the end like so, just the same way we started sewing. Fold the end down like so and top stitch till the end. So once you are done doing that, you can see what it looks like. Okay, remember we cut out 1.5, so now we have successfully sewed down half of an inch from the 1.5, remaining 1 inch left. So now I'm going to trim out quarter of an inch from this half an inch that we already sewn. I'm going to trim out quarter from it because I don't want it to be too bulky at that part. So we are trimming out 0.25 from it. You can see where I'm trimming. Make sure that when you are trimming this, you remove your outfit along the part where you are going to trim. You can see. Make sure you don't mistakenly cut your fabric. It's just the excess sewing that we have there that we don't need, we are trimming out. You can see what I'm doing. So once you have done that successfully, the next thing we are going to do is to fold the end like so. You fold it, you can see. So I'm going to top stitch this down. So you can see what I'm doing. Make sure there's no rumpled part on this your sewing when you are doing yours. So when you are top stitching this down, you want to make sure that you top stitch very close to the edge. This is not the part where you start doing marathon sewing. Just take your time and sew down very close to the edge. Very, very close to the edge. Now, whatever you do on this, your bias is going to show because this is the right side of your outfit. So that is why you have to take your time and you sew slowly and gently and making sure that you are sewing on top of the bias. So once you are done doing this, you can now go ahead and sew your bias on the other side of the cup. So and this is what it looks like after I was done sewing, looking clean on the inside and it's also looking clean on the outside. The next thing I'm going to do now is to insert my underwire into that channel we created, the bias channel we created on the cup. I'm going to insert this. You can see the difference between the two cups. One is laying flat and the other one is, you can see. So make sure you don't skip this underwire part. It gives your cup a lift. So you can see how the two cups are looking now. So once we are done with the front part, we are going to top stitch the open part of the bias. This is so that this will trap the underwire inside the bias. So once we are done top stitching, we are going to move over to sewing the yoke. I already showed you how to cut your yoke in the drafting video. So this is my yoke. I did not add any sewing allowance to the hem of this yoke, to this part I'm top stitching now to the cup. I did not add any sewing allowance. The reason is because this chantilly lace, it stretches both ways. Okay, so by the time you're adding sewing allowance to that part, your yoke is going to stretch too much. So that's the reason why I did not add any sewing allowance to that part. So make sure you watch the cutting video so that you will get to understand everything we are doing in this video. So now I'm going to top stitch this yoke down by quarter of an inch. So I'm top stitching from the middle. Once I'm done top stitching from this middle all the way, I'm going to flip it over and top stitch the other side. So I'm top stitching by quarter of an inch. So if you are using a chantilly lace that has stones like mine, make sure you remove all the stones along the part where you are going to sew on, so that your needle does not break. Okay, so that's what I did in this video. So I'm just top stitching gently. And when you are top stitching, make sure your underwire is not on the part where you are going to top stitch. So now this is my back piece, and my back piece has joining because I want the chantilly lace to be on the upper part and also on the lower part. I showed you how to do this in the cutting video. So now we are going to pin this chantilly lace on this our pattern paper. Once we are done pinning, we are going to now take the net fabric and pleat on this outfit. So now you can see that I pleated it and my joining is not showing. Nobody will know that there's a joining in this pattern. There's a joining in the chantilly lace. I beg your pardon. So now I've gone ahead to top stitch and I've trimmed out the excess. You can see that it's looking clean already. I've top stitched and I've trim out the excess. Now I'm going to use my masking tape. You can see where I'm putting the masking tape on the chantilly lace, not on the paper, on the chantilly lace. So I'm just going to put it on only the part where my zipper will be. This outfit does not have a lining, so the chantilly lace needs support. So that's the reason why I'm using this. If you skip this, your zipper will stretch, your chantilly lace is going to stretch. One will be longer than the other part. So it's best to use a masking tape to keep it in place. Okay, remember my sewing allowance is half an inch. So depending on the sewing allowance you leave for yours. But make sure that as you are putting this masking tape on the chantilly lace, you are putting it on the part where you will sew your zipper. So you can see my zipper is already fixed and neatly done. We don't need this paper anymore. So I'm going to remove the paper, and I'm also going to remove the masking tape. Once I'm done removing my paper and my pins, Don't forget your pins, guys. Make sure you remove all the pins, all the pins. Now I've flipped over to the other side and I'm removing my masking tape that I used in taping the outfit down. So do this gently. You don't need to rush this work. Just do it gently so you don't end up ripping your lace. Okay. Don't forget to remove your pins. So once I'm done, this is my front bodice and this is what it's looking like. I'm going to place the back part on top of it, as you can see, and I'm going to sew down the shoulder. I'll sew down the side seam, merging the side seams together. I'll sew that down, and I'll sew down on the other side, and I'll go back and sew the shoulders. You can see I'll sew down the shoulder and I'll be right back. So this is what it looks like. Everything is looking beautiful and clean on the inside, as you can see. So when pleating your mesh on this outfit, make sure you are not pleating on the chantilly lace edge. Okay, so I went up by 3 inches for mine. You can see the chantilly lace is showing, and this is what it looks like on my mannequin. The video of the sleeve is up on my YouTube channel. You can watch the video of how to make a keyhole sleeve. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. I love you.